The palace of Babylon never slept. Golden lamps flickered in long corridors, and whispers of envy moved through the air thicker than incense. Outside the great hall, the hum of servants echoed against the marble. But deeper within, a man prayed. Daniel, the exile from Judah, now an old man with eyes that had seen kingdoms rise and fall, knelt before an open window facing Jerusalem. His hands trembled slightly as he prayed, not from fear, but from reverence. For decades he had served pagan kings, yet his allegiance never shifted from the living God. 3 times a day he prayed, and heaven listened. But not everyone rejoiced in that faith. Among the nobles, jealousy brewed like poison. Daniel had risen too high, higher than men born into Babylon's elite. The new king, Darius, trusted him more than any other advisor. His wisdom, his integrity, his peace, they could not compete with it. So they plotted. Nothing can trap him, one official murmured in the shadows. Unless, another interrupted, unless it's something to do with his God. Their eyes gleamed with cruelty. The plan took shape quickly, a law, one that would turn faith itself into rebellion. By the time the morning sun rose over Babylon's towers, a decree was sealed in the royal court. For 30 days, no one in the kingdom was to pray to any god or man except to King Darius. The penalty, death, not by sword or fire, but by lions. They chose the lion's den on purpose, a pit known to swallow dissenters whole. The sound of the beast from below haunted even soldiers. And when the law was read aloud, the city bowed. But Daniel did not. He heard it. He understood it. Yet when the appointed hour of prayer came, he returned to his chamber, opened the window toward Jerusalem, and knelt as always. There was no defiance in his face, only peace. His prayer rose quietly above the noise of the city, past the envy of men, into the courts of heaven. But spies were watching. They stormed his quarters and caught him mid-prayer, words of devotion still on his lips. Their eyes burned with triumph. "This man has broken the decree," one shouted. "We have found him guilty." Daniel did not argue. He simply stood, calm as a tree rooted in deep soil. That evening, the conspirators gathered before King Darius, bowing low in mock respect. "O king, live forever. Did you not sign a law that anyone who prays to any god but you must be thrown into the lion's den?" The king nodded, distracted. "The law of the Medes and Persians cannot be changed." "Then, O king," they said, "Daniel, the exile from Judah, pays you no heed. 3 times a day he prays to his God." The words struck Darius like a blade. Daniel, the man he trusted, the one who had never failed him, condemned by his own law. The king's heart broke in silence. He tried all day to find a loophole, to save the one man of truth in his court. But the law was unchangeable, and when the sun sank below the horizon, the accusers returned. "It is time, O king," they said coldly. Darius lowered his head. "Bring him," he whispered. They dragged Daniel through the palace halls. Torches flickered along the walls as the growls of hungry beasts echoed from below. The pit was deep, carved in stone, its stench thick with fear and death. The king followed behind, his royal robes dragging against the ground. He stood at the edge, eyes glistening with regret. "Daniel," he said softly, "your God, whom you serve continually, may he deliver you." The old prophet smiled faintly. "He will, O king." They rolled the stone away. A deep guttural roar answered from the darkness below. Daniel was lowered down by ropes. His feet touched the cold floor, the air heavy with the breath of lions. Shadows moved around him, eyes glinting in the dark. Then the stone sealed the mouth of the den. The world above was silenced. That night Babylon feasted, but the palace was quiet. King Darius could not eat. He could not sleep. He turned away music, wine, and comfort. In his heart burned one prayer he did not dare speak aloud. Down in the pit, Daniel sat in the dark. The lions paced slowly at first, muscles rippling, their growls low. But as Daniel whispered his prayer, something unseen filled the air. The beasts stopped. Their rage melted into stillness. And in the quiet, Daniel felt a warmth behind him, the presence of one who had stood in fiery furnaces, who walked among the faithful, an angel of the Lord. Daniel's eyes closed. Peace flooded him. Outside, the king tossed in restless fear. Inside, the prophet rested in perfect calm. And then, a single roar echoed through the night, faint, deep, and long. The palace guards turned toward the sound. The conspirators smiled in cruel satisfaction. But the king covered his face and whispered, "God of Daniel, please." The night stretched on. The torches dimmed, and as the first light of dawn touched Babylon's rooftops, one question burned across the kingdom. Had the lions devoured the man of God? Or had God silenced the lions? Dawn broke over Babylon like a slow exhale. The air was pale and cold, painted with the faint blush of morning light. Servants moved quietly through the palace, unsure of what kind of day awaited them. But in one chamber there had been no rest. King Darius had spent the night walking in silence, pacing across marble floors worn smooth by his sandals. Every time the wind howled, he thought of the sound that haunted him. The lions' roar echoing through the stone corridors hours before. Now, as the sun began to rise, he could bear the waiting no longer. "Bring me to the den," he ordered. His guards followed quickly, though even they could hear the tremor in his voice. No musician played, no herald announced his arrival. The royal procession was silent, only the scrape of armor and the beating of anxious hearts. When they reached the den, the stone still sealed the entrance. The king stood still for a long moment, staring at the cold rock that separated him from truth or tragedy. Then with trembling hands, he called out in a voice that cracked the morning air, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" The guards leaned in, expecting nothing but the rustle of wings and the growl of beasts. But from the darkness below came a calm, clear voice, strong, steady, alive. "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and he shut the lions' mouths. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him and also before you." The king's breath caught in his chest. He turned toward the guards with eyes wide in disbelief and joy. "Remove the stone." They rushed forward, straining to roll it aside. As light spilled into the den, they saw him, Daniel, standing among the lions. The beasts lay around him like silent sentinels, their eyes no longer fierce but strangely gentle. Not one scratch marked his skin. Darius fell to his knees. Tears, long restrained, broke free down his face. "Lift him out," he commanded softly. The ropes were lowered, and as Daniel rose, the morning sun bathed him in gold. He stepped out onto solid ground, not as a victim, but as a living testimony that God had the final word. The king took his hands and whispered, "Your God is indeed the living God." But justice was not done yet. The conspirators, those who had plotted the trap, stood nearby, pale and shaking. Their confident smirks had vanished. King Darius turned toward them, his voice suddenly fierce. "You used deceit to destroy the innocent," he said. "Now by your own words, you will face the punishment you devised." Before the morning ended, the men who accused Daniel, along with their families, were thrown into the same pit. And the scripture says, before they reached the floor, the lions overpowered them. Heaven had waited until justice was complete. Then the king wrote a new decree across the empire, not to worship him, but to honor the God of Daniel. For he is the living God and he endures forever. His kingdom shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall have no end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. The echo of that decree spread far beyond Babylon's walls, across generations, across empires, across hearts that still wonder if God is truly present in danger. Sometimes our lions' dens don't have teeth or claws. Sometimes they're made of isolation, accusation, or fear. There are seasons when obedience to God feels like standing alone in the dark, surrounded by things that could destroy us. But Daniel's story reminds us, faith does not prevent the den. It brings God into it. When you choose integrity over compromise, when you pray even when it costs you, when you trust even when you can't see a way out, that's when heaven steps in quietly. Not always with noise, sometimes with silence and an angel's presence that the world cannot see. The same God who shut the lions' mouths still works behind the scenes. He still defends the faithful. He still honors courage in hidden rooms. Daniel's peace came not from his position in Babylon, but from his posture before God. He prayed long before he was promoted, and he prayed long after it became dangerous to do so. That's the heart of faith, to trust God, not because the outcome looks safe, but because his presence never fails. When the night grows long and the lions roar loud, remember, God's power has never depended on the silence of danger, but on the faith of those who still kneel. And in every generation, he still shuts mouths, still rescues hearts, still turns pits into platforms for his glory. Because even when the world tries to seal the stone, the living word still speaks life.